To start. All right, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for coming. We are going to start. If anyone still wants to write a question, if you could go into the lobby, grab an index card and write that question so that we can try and get that in. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tanya Landry. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters for North Pinellas County, and we're so thankful all of you are here this evening for this important event. A little commercial about the League, in case you don't know about the League. The League of Women Voters is a group that was started, of course, from the suffragette movement. And as in 1946, we allowed men to be in the League as well. So it's not only women, it's also men. And my husband keeps saying, well, then you should change the name, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, the League's mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. Tonight, we're here all about empowering voters because you're getting information at the source from the candidates. So some housekeeping things. If you could all look at your phones right now and just make sure they're on silent so we can hear the candidates and the candidates' thought processes are not disturbed by your phone. So we want to hear what they have to say. A reminder that, of course, August 20th is the election, and the mail ballot request deadline is August 8th if you do a mail-in ballot. Early voting is August 10th through the 18th, and you can find all of this information on the City of Tarpon Springs website and also on the Supervisor of Elections website. So a few housekeeping. We got the phones all taken care of. The candidates know the rules for tonight, and I'll explain them to you. First of all, I know we're excited about candidates that we like, but we would ask for no applause until the end of this evening, and then you can just go wild. The candidates know that they are going to get 2 minutes for an opening statement, each of them, and then it's 1 minute for questions. I'm going to try to get through all the many questions that I thank you for asking, and there are a lot, so, kudos to you all for being a very interested and engaged community, so I'll get to as many as I can in the time period. There's 2 minutes for a closing statement as well, and we start in alphabetical order with the opening statement, so Frank would go first, and in the closing statement, it's a reverse order, so then Chris would go. So we're ready to go. So let's ask the candidates first to give us your opening statement. We'll start with you, Frank.
Well, thank you all for being here, first of all. Many of you I know, some of you I want to get to know better. I've been in Tarpon for approximately 48 years. I know I look much younger than that, but I was attracted to this town like many of you were, unless you were born here, and if you haven't left, because you know how beautiful it really is. I have a sincere desire to help any way I can. I am retired, but I'm not through. I still have things to do. And that is why I'm sitting here before you this evening. I am willing and able. I have cooperated with other commissions to accomplish things for our city that many of us enjoy on a daily basis. And I simply would like to be able to continue to do that. And I think that I bring an experienced calmness and professional manner to the board. That's what I try to do on every occasion. And I think, as well as my other commissioners have done as well. We want to accomplish, we want to get things done. I've been part of that through many of the people I was privileged to serve with. And I know it takes some cooperation and some agreement to disagree, but always to move forward. And that is what I will bring if elected. And I just appreciate your time and your concern being here. Thank you.
Chris.
Yes, thanks to the League, thanks to the city, and thanks to all of you for coming out. I'm Chris Roboski. In my private life, my wife and I are therapists. We help people recover from traumatic events. In my public service, I've been on the Board of Adjustment for 10 years, and for over 20 years, public participation at the Board of Commission meetings. I am pro redevelopment, not rampant development of undeveloped land. The best example of this is, of course, with the Walmart. They tried to build on the 74 acres on the Anclote River, and we told them to find another site, and they did. They were forced to redevelop the old dilapidated Kmart Plaza and fix it up and put a Walmart there. And that Walmart is there to this day. And that 74 acres is still pristine on the Anclote River. So that someday, soon I hope, we can actually make it a park. I've written a few notes. Civility, communication, transparency, and accountability. These are things that need to be emphasized in our city. Communication has been abysmal from our city manager, especially, and he has not been held accountable. These things are going to change. He's on his way out the door. And I mean, to be civil with this man, we still have a city to run. Somebody has to do that job. And so we have to find the right person to do that. They've chosen Frank to be the man to help hire the new city manager. But if elected, I will work with the new city manager to make certain that they communicate with you all so that you know when projects are coming up and you're not like what happened on Bay Shore. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And so, Chris, you'll get the first question as we start the question portion of tonight. What is your experience in local government? And from the citizens here, they want to know, and why should we vote for you?
Okay, well, again, I've been attending meetings since 2004, active participation, but I've also attended, Pinellas County meetings, also other cities. I was on the Board of Adjustment. I was the vice chair and then the chair of that board for many years. And again, I've been standing up for the community for many, many years here. Standing at the podium used to be that one, and now that one. And it's hard work. And I know I can do a better job of it from here, this side of the dais. It's easier to accomplish what I've been trying to accomplish from over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, the same question. Would you like for me to repeat it, or?
Okay. I started on the Parks and Recreation Department Board, or Advisory Board, again, a while ago. I went from that to other boards, including the Budget Committee. We also served on code enforcement at the time. I've been active in most every organization in town. I was on the chairman of the board for the Boys and Girls Club for years. I served as on the board of Rotary. I serve on the board of Elks. I was fortunate to be elected commissioner and re-elected. I have been elected mayor, served 6 years from 1998 to 2004, and of which I am very happy to have been part of a group that accomplished a great deal of matters, and I feel that I can bring that experience. I've continued to stay updated on what's going on by watching online, and I want to bring that experience again towards the board. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for you, Frank. What do you see as the two greatest upcoming challenges in this community?
That's a very good question. I believe in unity. I believe that we will accomplish great things together. So if I can accomplish a major task, that would be something I would want to do. I want everybody talking to everybody if possible. I'm an open ear. I will listen. I will try to make the best decision, as I always have, for all of you in our community. And that's the toughest thing in sitting up here, is sometimes you make a decision that someone out there does not like. But you do that based off what's good for all of us in every way we can, and that's what I will continue to do. That should cover it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Yes, flooding, and to compound the issue, sea level rise. I mean, that's the biggest challenge that we face. And we really have to put pressure on the county to help. I mean, many of these roads in our town are county roads, and those flood as well. So we have to put some pressure on the county to help solve these problems. They're working on the sponge docks. They've got some thoughts about putting a vault in there to help flooding there, but all around the bayou floods. My street floods, and I'm at the top of a hill. So something has to be done about flooding and sea level rise. And thank goodness we have a board that is now working on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And you start with the next question. What are your plans to better communicate with the various diverse communities in Tarpon Springs?
Well, I'm happy to communicate with each community in Tarpon Springs. I have not yet been approached by some, but if and when I am elected, I will gladly reach out. I mean, we can work together. Actually, Annie Debs and Eddie Cole did reach out to me one time, but I was unable to accomplish their goal that they asked me to help. But I am happy to work with each group. 727-481-9076 is my phone number. You can call me, and I'm happy to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
I am always an open book to each and every citizen in Tarpon Springs. I believe that's how we formulate the ideas that we have up here on what is good for most of us. So I will continue to be an open book, and please call me. In fact, I can tell you that I was called at 4 a.m. in the morning one time by a sweet lady that I've now made friends with. She was upset because they were emptying the dumpster by her house. There were some apartments that were built in front of it, and she felt the need to wake me up because they woke her up. So I will answer the phone, I will be there, I will stop and talk to you. I've done those things, and that's me. I love communication. Again, that's the only way you get things done. So.
Okay, thank you. And you'll get the next question. Looking to keep the city moving forward, what 3 priorities would you push to enable for the greatest civic, social, and economic benefit of Tarpon Springs?
Well, I think the beauty of our city is vitally important. It's the first appearance that many people see, and also in attracting industry or businesses, not necessarily in our community, but around our community, and work with them to accomplish those things for them. Also, again, work always to bring the Greeks, all of us, the Italians, the rest of us, our African-American community. David Archie, I'm proud to say, I've known for years and years, had the privilege of serving with him. I've had the privilege of serving and talking to many of the old timers in this community, Tom Craig and Buddy Alderman and other people as well. So I want to see that. Also the flooding, we are working on that. We're starting that process. That's long term, but we have a lot of goals. Eventually, I think we might even need to plan a city hall one of these days. It'll be after I'm gone, but I will do everything I can to make it a better place to live.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
Yes, we need better communication. Recently with the Bay Shore issue, some of you may not be aware, but somebody knocked on their door and said, you're gonna owe us $20,000, where do you want your grinder pump? This came as quite a shock to these people, as it would to each one of us. We need better planning and better communication. They knew well in advance about that issue. The city could have told those people this was coming. They could have set up a situation where they made small payments over time, anything. But what happened was abysmal. And we need accountability when somebody drops the ball like that. So we don't not to be nasty about it or call them out, but just so it doesn't happen again. We have to improve. Again, communication, transparency, and accountability. That's what's going to get us there. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll start with the next question. What is your position on one resident serving on multiple advisory boards simultaneously?
Which one was?
Oh, it is for Chris.
Yes, we've been having trouble keeping our boards full. So depending on which board it is, I believe that it is possible. And the Charter Review is discussing this now as well. They're also thinking of getting laxed on the residency, whether you have to be a resident of Tarpon Springs or not in order to serve on a board. I believe it's important to be a resident, and I do believe that some boards and committees you can work on both, just like Joan is on the art committee and also on the Charter Review, and there are several others from planning and zoning that are the same. So that can be tolerated, but certainly not Board of Adjustment, and planning and zoning probably would not be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, the same question?
I'm not necessarily opposed. I just believe that wherever you serve, you need to be 100% committed to that commission or that board. There may be an occasional, like the Charter Review Committee, that is a brief period of time. I don't see a problem in serving on that type of commission and another board as well. Many of you in this room, I've recognized several faces that have served on our boards, and I ultimately appreciate you very, very much. I hope that you can relay with your friends and neighbors the importance of that involvement. We need more of it. I hope the rest of you who have not had a chance to serve yet will serve and work to help our community. Again, that's how we do it. So that pretty much sums that up.
Thank you. Next question for you, Frank. What are your views on future land use, zoning, and land development codes in Tarpon Springs?
I have been part of that in the past, where we looked at all the remaining sectors, and not that, but many of the rest of the developed segments as well, to look at what kind of changes we might need to think to do in the future. And I'm going to encourage, if elected, that we do that, as well as a salary survey. There's many projects that I have been part of in the past that I think needs to come back, and certainly looking at P&Z, planning and zoning, and what can be built and what can't be built, how we want to develop it, how tall we want it, how developed do we really want it, things of that nature. Sometimes there's property that's zoned, maybe commercial or retail, and you don't want that there. You want it to be something else. Then we need to look at those areas and have them rezoned so they can't be built that way. That's how I feel about that.
Chris.
Well, the comprehensive plan and the strategic plan have been updated. So many of these things have been addressed. The Charter Review is just heard from Commissioner Koulianis about raising the height limit in the city. So these things are being hashed out, and it's about time. But there's always room for more change if we deem necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And you'll get the next question. What are your views on the current status of recreation, transit, and pedestrian access sidewalk coverage here in Tarpon?
Please,
I can repeat the question.
Please.
I think the citizen is wanting to know, what would you do about the current recreation? Is it sufficient? Current transit in Tarpon Springs and pedestrian access sidewalk coverage? What are your views on all of those areas?
Wow.
Are they
Okay.
sufficient,
Well,
or do they need to be improved? Or
okay, I believe that they're doing a good job with recreation. The sidewalk fund is an interesting thing. I mean, there are places in Tarpon, there are sidewalks on each side of the road, and people walk down the middle of the road. Then there are places like Anclote Boulevard, Anclote Road, where there's no sidewalk, except for you have to go through literally a white fence that nobody knows they're allowed to go through, walk through that neighborhood to get to the other side. I've walked on the outside of Anclote Road. It's dangerous. So that we have to prioritize where to put sidewalks, and that's one very dangerous place. I mean, people go quite fast around those roads, and there's no shoulder. So there are places where we absolutely have to update the sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, the same question.
I believe that all sidewalks in this municipality, our city limits, that lead to a public school, even a private school, should be completed. We have several areas where that is not. I think they should be made priority. I also think there needs to be more spending to get the sidewalks throughout as they should be. That's on sidewalks. As far as recreation, I think given the landmass that we have, we're doing a good job. Could it be better? Yes, it can be. Both the football and soccer complex out on Jasmine, which I was happy to support and negotiate a rezoning with the county so we could purchase it, needs some fixing up and maybe even some expansion. So does Sisler Field. Unfortunately, we've used most of the landmass at Sisler, so we need to think of things like that, like the old landfill, and see if we can maybe perhaps do things there as well. But I think the city is moving forward.
All right, and you get the next question, Frank. Would you support the creation of a land preservation fund, and how would you recommend funding it?
Yeah, the answer is yes, I would support that. I think it would have to be a combination of a grants process to obtain the funding, and also donations from funding. I know in Dunedin, they purchased a park and they went out and got donations. I believe there's also some government money that came forward in that project as well. So those are things, again, that you need to sit down and not dream about, but plan, and then move on the action of that plan to have it completed.
Chris?
Yes, I would. I'd be in favor of that. Now, funding, there's federal, state, and local funding that could be tapped, but we could also look at impact fees to developers. If a developer wants to destroy some land somewhere, they should have to pay into the preservation fund. Thank you.
All right, and you're going to get the next question. Do you think the downtown area is healthy and successful? And if yes, what will you do to keep it that way? If not, what would you improve?
Well, the downtown area has certainly improved since I moved here. You know, there are finally some shops and restaurants that are open. And so we get to frequent those places. There's even a nice little brewery there and some other things. So I think that it's moving forward. It's coming up. So I'm just thinking the only thing that I would add is like they did with Dan's place. They gave him a small grant so that he could upgrade his property. So I think more of that is certainly feasible.
Thank you. Frank, the same question.
Yes, I think that the town, I got here a long time ago when most of those buildings were boarded up. So it's very, very pleasant for me. I even walk around downtown often. I encourage all of you to do that because we do have a lot of new shops and new proprietors that would appreciate your support. I think we should shop at home as much as possible, eat in our restaurants and help those people. We have a facade program that's available from the CRA that we have downtown. I think that CRA needs to continue, and we need to help the businesses improve their buildings. We need to address matters that we hired an economic development director and Karen, and she does a marvelous job. Ms. Lemons is 100% Tarpon and out working. I think we need to meet more with businesses to see how we can be more user-friendly to them as well.
Great, thank you. And you get the first question again. Instead of purchasing the Spoil site, would you advocate to purchase the Stauffer site instead? Why or why not?
Well, I definitely feel that we should have a disposal site, very definitely. I have some questions in my own mind about the amount of money that Stauffer site, I mean, not the Stauffer site, but the small site from the family. I believe that we could find some perhaps a little cheaper and more affordable in this community. I do feel that we need to stop paying to lease land for that purpose, and we need to stop paying to have to recondition the land when our lease is up. That's money basically that we're throwing in a hole every 10, 12, 15 years whenever the Army Corps of Engineers decides that we can actually do some dredging. But the answer is yes, we need the property. Is it the property that's coming to you in November? I have questions about the price. I don't have questions about the rest of it. It is a good piece. It's close to local government land, so there are advantages and disadvantages.
Chris.
Yes, we do need a spoil site. The price tag on this one's almost insane. But that's the market we're in. So the issue is, do we do it now? And we certainly can't keep kicking the can down the road. As far as the Stauffer site, it's going to be reevaluated by the EPA in 2025. So I don't think anybody should touch it until it's been reevaluated, because it's extremely dangerous, highly toxic and radioactive, and that's phosphorus. So if it gets exposed to air or water, it can literally explode. So we need to stay off that property as much as possible. And then if they reevaluate it and they deem it safe for something, people have been talking for years about putting a boat ramp over there, but that's only if it's deemed safe. Thank you.
All right, and next question. Start with you, Chris. Tarpon has an important historical and cultural heritage. The Greektown Historic District, recognized by the National Register and the state, and the Union Academy District currently have little local protection from developers. What would you do to preserve and protect them?
Well, if they are concerned about development there, we could again consider different impact fees for those areas that the developers would have to pay to fix those areas up. So instead of allowing them to just come in and do what they want, they would have to meet criteria in order to build in those areas. And we can work with each community and decide what criteria would be adequate before allowing that. And as a board, I believe we could rule on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank.
I feel that we should have workshops or meetings with our citizens, especially in our different groups and different areas of town. We need to know what it is you want. Putting something in and you don't want it, then we've not accomplished anything. So I, for one, would like to see us get together in meetings more often. Many of you have taken part in some of those. I know we did that years ago with the sponge docks, and we met with them to develop a plan, a master plan for the docks. It created a change for the docks. However, I think you'd all agree that we need to go back and look at that area again, as well as the Union Academy neighborhood, many of the areas around here, even our parks. We need to look at those as well. And I'm willing to do that, but we need input. We want to look at the facts, and we want to make decisions based off those facts. So we need your help.
Thank you. And the next question will be for you, Frank. What will you personally do to help the city of Tarpon Springs and/or Pinellas County purchase, protect, and preserve, and keep the delicate ecosystem intact and undeveloped?
Could you read that last part?
Sure. What will you personally do to help the city of Tarpon Springs and/or Pinellas County purchase and protect and preserve and keep the delicate ecosystem intact and undeveloped?
Well, as far as the underdeveloped, that I spoke of previously in another question about getting together and deciding with your input what it is we want in those areas. That's number one. Number two, I found that the county is quite willing in many cases to work with us as they did on the completion of Mears with the curbing and the sidewalks. We sat down with this county manager and the president of the council at that time. And we expressed the need. It had been on their budget list for years, and it wasn't done. And we explained to them why, in the matter of safety, was our biggest concern, and they moved us up on the priority list. So I found that communication really goes a long way to help change what we want changed, but I find that a lack of communication does more harm as it just frustrates people. So let's talk and keep talking.
Chris.
Well, I would reach back out to the Trust for Public Lands. Peter Delacos and myself met with Bob Guido years ago. He was ready to cut the check to preserve the 74 acres on the Anclote River. And the city manager squashed it at that time. But as a commissioner, I would reach back out and find funding to preserve as much land as possible. And this is doable. I mean, the guy was there, he was ready. It was a done thing. And at the last minute, something happened and the whole thing got scuttled. But we can start over. And we can preserve that 74 acres and any other land that we deem worthy of preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is for you, Chris. What can you do to limit car speeding to make neighborhoods more safe for kids to ride bikes?
Well, already they've started to do that. You know, the sidewalk has been designed in such a way for what they call multimodal transportation and to make it more walkable so that people have to slow down. So, I mean, if it's necessary to put speed bumps in areas, certainly they can look at that. But right now, they've already started to do that on our streets. And there are also, you know, we have the police department that they just need to be notified if there's a specific intersection, and they will come out and they will sit there until they've solved the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank.
I think completion of the sidewalk, certainly through schools, is important, as I've said in the past. I also think we can do a lot to address that matter with our own city staff and the police department, fire department, and encourage, as we have been encouraging, neighborhood policing. Get to know your city officials, get to know your staff, your people, and again, input in communication. It sounds like I'm repeating myself over and over and over again, but I know that's how things get done. And if I could go over some of the projects that have been done in this city, and it was communication and action that accomplished those things, and that's the other thing I would encourage that very much.
Thank you. Frank, what is your view on future development in the city?
I've talked a lot about this in the past. You know, they're moving into our state at a rate of 1,000 people a day. A day. We need, again, to decide what it is we want our community to look like, and we need to zone it and protect it. Do we need more development? Probably in most areas not. We have a beautiful community, and I, for one, don't want to see that damaged by overdevelopment. I don't want to be a Tampa. I don't want to be a St. Pete. I moved to Tarpon for its natural beauty, and we need to work to do that. Again, that will be accomplished by working together and agreeing to disagree and move forward.
Chris.
Again, we need redevelopment, not more rampant development. We don't need any more tearing up of green space. We got plenty of things that are already paved over, and all we have to do is go fix those up. So I'd be in favor of that and that only. I mean, we got to fix our pipe infrastructure as well. We produce some of the purest water in the world with the RO plant, but it goes through some of the dirtiest pipes in the country. 100-year-old, it's lead leaching into the water. there's money for this. There's federal funds to fix this problem. Add to that the cocktail that they put in there every day is adjusted in the water for corrosion inhibitors. There's 4 different corrosion inhibitors they put in there. We're drinking that. We're showering in that every day. If we fix the pipes, we won't have that problem. They won't have to put those in there. Thank you.
Thank you. And you get the next question. What is Tarpon Springs' identity, and is it adequately inclusive and welcoming to all populations here in the city? I can say that again. What is Tarpon Springs' identity, and is it adequately inclusive and welcoming to all members of the city?
Well, it's a waterfront community, and it's an older town, and it's small and quaint, and that's why I moved here. I know there are some people that feel that it are, I suppose, not feeling welcome. I think I went through that for a brief period of time myself. So there's always more that can be done to welcome everyone that lives here, and we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
Well, I think our Greek ethnicity is important to our community. The sponge docks and the sponge industry has served us well over the years. There's a lot of historical things that have happened. I think that certainly should be protected. Our waterways are absolutely gorgeous. I didn't even know exactly where Tarpon was at one time in my life, and I'm sitting watching the news on NBC News on Channel 8, and they had a video of, I believe it was Epiphany in Tarpon Springs. I saw that beauty, and I said, I gotta go. I fell in love that day, the next day that I went. We need to protect those matters first.
Great, thank you. The next question we'll start with you, Frank. What opportunities do you see in Tarpon Springs for the council and city to lower operating costs to save taxpayers' money?
There's a lot of things I would want to do, but as all of you know out there, if you're still working, our costs go up, not quite daily, but almost. So we have to win and beat this problem by efficiency. We need to be more efficient in government. We need to be more communicative in government. We need to look at our employees, how we can help them make our job easier. If someone is short in one area, we want to try to fill that and move it on to the next area. But again, it's planning and it's communication. Efficiency is the biggest way to keep spending down, and that's what we need to improve and work on.
Chris?
Well, again, we need communication, transparency, and accountability. When the city auditor found out that somebody was potentially getting paid not to show up to work and work hundreds of other jobs for other people in other cities, the main focus was on the embarrassment that caused the city. Now, wouldn't you think the main focus should be on stopping that hemorrhaging of money, our money? It's beyond me. So they didn't want transparency. They were afraid of being embarrassed, and they didn't want to hold people accountable that caused that problem. That's what has to be addressed, and then you'll get efficiency. But you have to have people accountable. You have to be transparent no matter how embarrassing it is, and you got to communicate. And then we won't have these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. And you get the next question. What are your views on the current youth programs here in Tarpon Springs, and do you think there is room for improvement?
Well, there's always room for improvement. I honestly have not investigated any of the programs. I do appreciate that the school band is top-notch and amazing, and I know that there are sports programs for the youth here. I would like to say that I've heard people speak about wanting another splash pad thing, and then also we were working on a swimming pool years ago at the high school, but I think the county dropped the ball there. So I know that a community swimming pool would be a benefit and an improvement, and they could build programs around that. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, same question.
By improving our parks and recreation, and also educating the members of our community to the many aspects that we have already in place in recreation in Tarpon Springs, and offer activities, supervise our activities, and fund the programs properly. Another splash park would be a good addition. A pool, however, is, while we all would want one, I've had a few in my life, and I'm glad that I don't have one anymore, but that's another matter. We need to, again, address those issues through long-range planning, but education and letting the public know what is available already would be worthy too.
All right, thank you. And Frank, are you in favor of raising the dollar amount the Board of Commission can spend on property purchases from the current $350,000 without a referendum?
First of all, I'm very comfortable in going to the public on any spending that we do up here on this commission. I have no problem with that. I think it's a good idea. Second of all, sometimes you need to move, and you need to move then. Our process is such that it can take literally months to actually get that purchased. So I think with inflation, perhaps looking at raising that somewhat would be plausible. However, I don't know that it needs to be carte blanche. We need to limit it and restrict it in how it's used. And that's what I would propose.
Thank you. Chris?
I mean, I'm comfortable with the number that stands. I know there's been a lot of discussion about it, obviously, because the economics of our times. So it's always healthy to revisit that issue, but I don't think currently that they need to change it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Chris, you get the next question. Can you comment on what your views are of the current CRA?
The community redevelopment area. So please repeat the question.
Sure. This
The
is from
current
someone who
views
wants
of
to
the
know what are your current views on the CRA, and is there anything you would like to see that's not there or change?
Right, okay. So in this area of town, one thing that comes to mind, I believe, is that there was a loan taken out to buy the Sun Bay and all that business. I think that was a mistake. That money could have bought a pool, could have bought a splash park. And I would just say that I would not like to see that sort of thing done again and talk of eminent domain and all this business. I did not agree with that. Thank you.
All right. And Frank?
I was part of helping to expand the CRA in our community. I think it has already accomplished some really nice things for our community. The facade plan, for one, which is improving the fronts of the buildings, that's helped. I certainly want to see it continue. I want to see it managed properly. And again, I would like to have more citizen input so that we are putting into the CRA area what the public actually wants, uses, and respects and wants for the future. So I think it's been a good thing, and I think it needs to continue.
Great, thank you. And you get this next question on Frank. How do you plan to move Tarpon Springs into the future, or is Tarpon Springs destined to be a small town that gets left behind? Oh, it was for you, Frank.
I thought it was Chris.
No, it was you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I hope and have seen already in the short time I've been back that indeed our city government is trying to stay updated. I know I've been out for a while. The process that we go through now up here by the use of computers and portals and all of this other stuff. We are indeed working to make that better. The communication level to the commissioners now, we have backup that's sometimes 500 and 600, 700 pages. So I think that we're trying to get there. Again, communication and input, that helps to address those matters. That's how I see it happening, just to basically continue to make things happen, to continue to communicate and move forward and use those technologies that can advance our community, again, making it more efficient and therefore hopefully less tax dollars needed.
Great. Chris, would you like me to repeat the question? How do you plan to move Tarpon Springs into the future, or is it destined to become a small town that gets left behind?
Well, I think that we want to remain a small town, and I wouldn't consider that being left behind, but if we're talking about technological advances, certainly more solar power would be in line with that. And we can do that, rooftop solar. We can put solar panels over all the parking lots so that they provide shade for the cars underneath and produce electricity at the same time. So more of this needs to be emphasized, more of this needs to be encouraged. It doesn't have to all be on the backs of the city, but we certainly can explore that. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. And you will start with the next question. Chris, would you support changes to the codes that exist so that site plans get reviewed by the Sustainability Committee for environmental concerns?
Sure. I believe that that's a good idea. I also believe that the planning and zoning, it could be considered that they would get veto power over certain projects. I've seen that in other cities, and it takes a lot of the congestion off of the Board of Commissioners. So I think those things would be wise to explore.
Thank you. Frank?
I think that if the commission, the city elected commission, is responsible for those subject matters. However, again, the more the city commissioners know about a project, that's why we have, one reason I think why we have so many advisory boards. They have contributed over the years, and I would hope that that process would continue to help. And certainly an oversight committee along that line would perhaps be an addition to information and education that the commission could have to make it the final decisions. We're the elected officials, and we're responsible to you. If we're doing the job, we should probably get reelected, hopefully. If we're not doing the job, we should be sitting at home. That's plain and simple.
All right, thank you. Frank, what are your thoughts about the Forbes lot downtown? Should it remain vacant land or should a building be built back to complete the street?
That I believe on both sides of that one. I don't want to seem wishy-washy, but it has been mentioned that it could be built to look like the buildings that are already downtown and developed and offer another business and perhaps some residential space for the community. It also has been mentioned to make it a small parking lot with addressed landscaping. I'm for making it part of the downtown to make it more appealing and attractive to the people that live here and the people that visit us.
Chris?
Well, if it could be rebuilt in the character of the buildings around it, and then I would be in favor of that. Otherwise, I think it would be out of place, and we don't need, some eyesore in the middle of town. As far as parking goes, we're going to need a parking garage somewhere. That's certainly not going to be there, but we're going to need that if we are to move into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and you get the next question. Does Tarpon Springs have a homeless problem, and if so, what are possible solutions for the unhoused?
Well, I don't know about a homeless problem. We have homeless people, and they need help. And, thank God our city actually does help quite a bit. The Shepherd Center and the like, they do all kinds of good things for them. People argue that causes more homeless people to come here to get the services. So then the city just needs to work on other avenues for helping these people, for finding shelters and creating shelters, also creating jobs for people who can work, certainly evaluating the people, but most of all, we need, they need help with their mental health. And that needs to be provided, because these people have, they wound up that way because something happened to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, same question?
With today's economy, there are more homeless now than we've ever had. Do I want to see people homeless? No. So I believe, first of all, government of any kind at any level should be teaching people to fish and not just to eat fish. Meaning we need to help provide some education for these people. We need to give them a place to get a shower. We need to give them a bed to sleep in, but it needs to be controlled. And I believe we help by doing those things. I know, for example, there's an officer with our police force that basically is assigned to help and talk and communicate with the homeless people in our community. That's a step forward. I think we need to look at addressing that even more so. But we need to teach them how to fish and take care of themselves, and they can contribute and help other people in the same manner in which they were.
Great, thank you. One more question, and then we will go to the closing statements. How can you help, and this question starts with Frank. How can you help limit the preemption legislation that comes from Tallahassee?
How can I?
How can you help limit the preemption legislation that comes from Tallahassee?
That's a topic that I could talk about for a long, long time. I think there has been too much done in Tallahassee to take away the leadership in municipalities, our cities, especially their smaller ones. So the biggest way that I think we can control and improve that is to do what you're doing here tonight. That's come and listen, make up your mind, and vote for the people you think are doing the job as you would like to have it done. It starts with the voters. It's alarming sometimes how little percentage they actually vote. So we would have to control Tallahassee a little bit and who's up there, try to legislate where we can. But so far, when municipalities have tried to do some things through their city laws, they've been overridden in Tallahassee. So we need to start by looking at who we send up there.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
Yeah, so you have to change the legislature. That's one way. So everyone that is in there ought to be out. And we need to start over. And some of you might consider running for State House. The other way is by referendum. We can change the Constitution of the state of Florida if we get enough signatures. So I know a man who's working on that, and that is doable. So they'll put it on for referendum vote. That's another way. That's real democracy. That's taking the power back in our own hands. So if we can't get good representation in Tallahassee, then we'll take it the other way. With real democracy, we'll get to vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris, you will start with the closing statement, so it's 2 minutes.
Okay, once again, thanks everybody for coming out. I see some of you guys at the meetings. I really appreciate that you participate in your government. It's not easy. I've been doing it for over 20 years, coming to these meetings, looking at Peter Delacos, and some of the faces over and over and over, listening to people trying to make positive change in their town. So I encourage you all to continue this. And never in the history of Tarpon Springs have any two candidates had to go through so much to try to get this seat, because we had to fill out the dreaded Form 6 that some of you have heard of. We had to go through an application process. That's never happened with any candidates that ever run for office. And then we had to sit through multiple meetings and hearings about it. So if nothing else, you know you've got two dedicated people here. So you get to just simply choose, do you want the one that says he is not in favor of rampant development and in favor of only redevelopment and preservation of many things, our heritage, our environment. And again, we can disagree. Frank and I simply disagree on some things, but we don't have to be disagreeable. We don't have to argue and bicker like you have seen. So I just want to say, whatever you choose between the two of us, you're going to get a dedicated person who really cares about this town. But if you choose me, you can go to my website, www.helpelectchris.com, and thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Frank?
Okay, I too wish to thank each and every one of you. It's special to see you and to see your involvement. I feel that with me, you already know who I am. Those of you that have been active, I've been around a while. I don't intend to go anywhere else. I love the city. I've dedicated myself to helping it wherever I can. I was asked to be appointed to this position by several people. At the time, I was asked when we interviewed that if I wanted to run to complete Commissioner Lunt's term. I was unsure of that, quite honestly. I'm old enough and educated enough to maybe second guess being involved again and let the people that want to come forward to do so. However, my dedication again took over. I had other people came to me and said, please consider completing that term. And that's why I'm here before you today. There are some things that I have not yet accomplished that I would like to accomplish, and a little more time would help that matter along. Again, if you want somebody dedicated, and I'm not saying that my opponent is not, because he is. He wouldn't get up here and go through what he goes through if he wasn't. But I think I've demonstrated my dedication for the last 40 some odd years. And until God decides to take me, or whoever does, I intend to keep helping where I can. So thanks for your attention and hopefully your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both the candidates and thank you for your time this evening. That concludes the candidate forum. Let's give the candidates applause. Thank you. Remember, August 20th is Election Day. Thanks.